I describe it, Eric, the way I describe it is like me and you are at a party, right? And we both smoked a little too much or drank a little too much, whatever. And we each get in an Uber to go to a Waffle House because that's where we're going to have dinner, right?
Yeah.
We each get in separate Ubers. Now, the Ubers may go different directions. The directions that it takes to get to the place might be different, but you end up at the same place. And that's basically how you describe the two of them.
Exactly. And I also love evolutionary astrology in terms of looking at the outer planets. But I will say there are principles of the Vedic that I use because I see it play out in real human beings' lives in the chart for the truth. So I'm all about the truth. So, and I hate when people of different, whether you use Placidus or whole sign system or equal house or Vedic sidereal, when they kind of like attack each other, it's like, it's stupid, it's childish, because exactly what you said, it's all about getting to the truth. You know. Hey, what's up, everybody? Back with another Knowledge is Love Astrology podcast, episode 369, with a very special guest. He is an amazing author with an insane book series, Into the Rabbit Hole. He'll tell us about it. Astro-Theologist. I present to you guys today, Mr. Micah Dank. Micah, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to this. So, okay, look, truth be told, I've seen some of your work on YouTube, and you bring it. And I want you to kind of share with people. Obviously, I know you've got something you want to share, but I also want to share, or you share with people, what happened in terms of you being censored and how did all that play out?
Right. So basically, I was a Mason. I was a 32nd degree Mason. And I presented my work in the lodge one day, and it caused a 5-hour fight with the chaplain and other people there.
Wow.
And everything kind of settled down. And then he got me on the Grand Lodge in New York City, the Masonic the Masonic building, the big one, the one that controls everything in New York City. Now, I didn't go in and lecture this because it was during COVID. So what I did was just like this. I did it over the computer, and I gave my presentation. They left it up for a month, and then they secretly took it down and never told me. And then I found out from the chaplain, they said that it was too revealing of the signs and too risky for the fraternity's reputation. So right there, I just left. I didn't want to be part of that anymore. I'm not dealing with gatekeepers.
Right.
My YouTube got shut down because of what I teach. I had almost 10,000 people after a year on my channel.
Right.
It got shut down. But for some reason, they allow me to do this presentation on other people's channels. They just don't want me to have my own channel.
Okay. So then you feel it's more personal.
Exactly. And then last night, I did a presentation on TikTok for a guy that had like 80,000 subscribers. And halfway through it, TikTok, for the second time that I've done the presentation, I've done 2 presentations on TikTok. Both times they got shut down and they get flagged. There's many times on Rumble or Facebook that I've started to go massively viral, and then you could just tell the algorithm stepped in and just dissipated it. Yet I'm still here teaching people, and I have a book series that they can't censor, even though they tried to. They went to my publisher. And they told him, can you reel this guy in? And he basically told them to go fuck themselves. So that was good. So I always try and bring people to my book series, not just because of the financial incentive, but because what I'm going to show you today, I go into greater detail in the book series, and we'll get to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, everywhere I go, every time I step foot, I have a Rumble. I backed all my YouTube videos up onto a Rumble. So I have all my stuff on Rumble. I haven't really done anything with the Rumble, but it's just kind of like it's like a Wayback Machine for me. So I can just, if people I give them my Rumble link and they want to go through my stuff.
So Rumble doesn't censor, right?
Rumble, so far, no.
That's good. Okay. And that's good for, creators and truth speakers.
Well, it's impossible to make money off of Rumble, number one. It's really hard to make money off of Rumble.
Okay, so they don't monetize like YouTube.
No, YouTube is where you can monetize.
Yeah.
Um, and I tried to get a law firm to actually get my YouTube back, and turns
Interesting.
out they never replied to the two letters that the law firm sent. And then when I found some dude that basically goes into YouTube and messes with their system and puts people back on,
Really?
he said, I can't even find your channel. They double deleted it, all of it.
Wow.
So I don't even have, it's not even like, oh, they sent, oh, you're going to get punished and then they'll put you back on and all your stuff's still there. No, everything is gone. All my stuff is just on Rumble or in my books. That's it right now.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that, man. But this is, and I think that part of it speaks to your authenticity and your dedication to the truth. And so I really want to know, where does that come from? So I ask a lot of my guests this, but I'm kind of curious. And I'll start with the astrology first, because you are an Aquarius rising, a Taurus moon, and a Libra sun.
Mm-hmm.
But you have the true black moon Lilith and Pisces in the second house. And that right there tells me that there's like this huge, like intuitive psychic energy about you. Who was 10-year-old Micah? And were you always someone that was kind of tapped in and curious about the truth?
No, I didn't actually start waking up to all this kind of stuff until my early 20s. And even then, I didn't have my dark night of the soul. No, I was an actor and an Abercrombie store model. And I thought I was the hottest shit. Like, that's what
God,
I did.
Abercrombie, oh my God.
Yeah, and like I was like, I'm lucky I didn't get touched.
Yeah, really lucky.
Jesus Christ. But yeah, no, that's what I was, and I was just drinking a lot, partying, and then I started waking up to some spirituality in my 20s. I just remember being in temple at 9 years old and just thinking, this isn't right. There's something wrong. I don't know what it is, but there's something wrong.
Now, you didn't go to like a rabbi or something and say something, did you?
No. I just stopped caring, stopped dealing with it.
Yeah.
And then in 2012, so at the end of the Mayan calendar was my Saturn return, and that's when I had my awakening. So all that energy,
yes,
just knocked me down, and I woke up starting to see things differently. And it's only been about 13 years, but it's been great. I've only been lecturing for about 5 years.
Okay.
It should have been viral hundreds of times already, but you know how it goes.
Oh yeah, I do. And truth be told, with your Saturn return and your Saturn's in Scorpio, that's pretty intense. Like, you are not only a truth speaker, like you kind of feel and you have this extra karmic push for you to research and investigate the truth, not just about the secrets of the Bible, the Torah, and the Quran, but even about governments as well, correct?
Mm-hmm. That's what my entire book series is about. And at the end of the presentation, I'll go into it with you.
Okay. All right. Well, this is so fascinating. And I think, people would be so curious to know also, how do your friends and family feel about the work that you do?
It's funny. When people ask me this kind of question, I kind of answer it like this. So I have my own thought process of what kind of person I am. Good, bad, where my positives, where my negatives are, right?
Yeah.
That's what I think about myself. But no one else has that. In fact, no two people on earth have the same exact thought process about you. You ask 100 people, you'll get 100 different answers. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of like I stopped trying to prove myself to people, and I just kind of started speaking my truth, and then the people found me, and my friends that I still have, because I have lost a few, my friends that I do still have, they don't see the depth of it. They just think that I'm just like, I'm off a little bit, not off, but like they think that I'm just doing my own thing in my own lane. But you'd be surprised the kind of people that come out of the woodwork and send you a DM, and like I would say, like I would never post under your post, but this got me thinking. Thank you and shit like that. You know.
Wow, that's powerful. Well, that makes me interested to ask: have any quote unquote famous or celebrity people reached out to you behind the scenes? I mean, I don't want you to reveal names, but has anybody with any like fame or power reached out to you and said like, "Thanks for revealing this, man," or "You're speaking the truth, brother"?
Um, there was a drummer for a band
Okay.
that had a massive hit about 20 years ago, like a super massive hit. He started following me, and then we started talking, and then I haven't talked to him in a long while, but
Right.
it just takes one influencer to just see something and share it, and then the algorithm, once it's out there, it's out there.
Yeah. That's wild, man. So you have something really powerful for the audience today. So I think we should get to it because it's 6,000 years of hidden secrets. That's the name of your presentation, correct?
It is. But what I want to make abundantly clear
Okay.
is I'm an astro-theologist.
Yes.
You're an astrologer. Those are cousins. We both use the zodiac.
Yep.
But just because I know my work doesn't mean I know yours.
Okay.
And you knowing mine. Like what you're going to do is you're going to fill in the blanks on some of this, as my astrologer does too. We kind of see more of the big picture when you're together, when the two are together. But my knowledge as far as astrology is I'm not into that. It's not that I'm not into that.
Right. But like so as I tell people, and I'm sure you know that astrology is the map of your life and the remembrance of your soul.
Right.
Now I've been working, I've done deep stuff into
Did you say that you use sidereal or tropical?
I use Western tropical. I resonate with
because everybody that I talk to. Okay, so this presentation that you're going to see is like 95% tropical and like 5% I talk about Ophiuchus.
Okay.
Maybe.
Yeah, and that's cool because I'll tell you like this. I vibe with. To me, I'm all about investigating the truth, right? Like if you come to me as a client, that's my job is to give you the truth about what your soul selected before you came here on this planet. Now, I tend to feel that if you were born more towards India or Africa, you may actually resonate more with the Vedic sidereal. For people more in the Western Hemisphere, just depending, because I know plenty of Americans.
Well, the way I describe it, Eric, is like me and you are at a party, right? And we both smoked a little too much or drank a little too much, whatever. And we each get in an Uber to go to a Waffle House because that's where we're going to have dinner, right?
Yeah.
We each get in separate Ubers. Now, the Ubers may go different directions. The directions that it takes to get to the place might be different, but you end up at the same place. And that's basically how you describe the two of them.
Exactly. And I also love evolutionary astrology in terms of looking at the outer planets. But I will say there are principles of the Vedic that I use because I see it play out in real human beings' lives in the chart for the truth. So I'm all about the truth. So, and I hate when people of different, whether you use Placidus or whole sign system or equal house or Vedic sidereal, when they kind of like attack each other, it's like, it's stupid, it's childish, because exactly what you said, it's all about getting to the truth. And the truth wins.
I already wanna connect you to my astrologer and have you guys do an episode. It would be so fun to watch.
I would love it, man, because I like to go deep. That I'm all about. I would love that.
She does medical, death astrology. She's starting to do all this kind of stuff. It's insane, like the amount of stuff in this girl's brain.
I tell people you could waste your time going to a psychologist. You have to ask. They have to ask the right questions. You have to be willing to share the truth. When you come to me, I see everything. You're butt naked. There's no hiding from me. I see it all in the chart, and I love it.
I didn't even realize my Saturn was in Scorpio. That probably explains the anger that I have towards the elites too.
Well, dude, but what's so powerful about it is that's what gives you the power. Saturn is such power, and Saturn wants to give you more blessings than Jupiter and Venus ever can, as long as you are disciplined, organized, and structured, and respond to your abilities. So
that's the thing that I come off with people too, is because I'm all love. I don't have a Patreon and I don't hide behind a paywall like many of these people do. Yeah. I'm all love, and my astrologer was like, "Yeah, well, you're a Libra sun and you're a Taurus moon.
Yeah, that's all Venus.
Double Venus. That's the love right there."
And then the Aquarius rising with Pluto in your center to 2044, you are here to speak and reveal the truth, my brother. You have no choice, So
I know.
that's really powerful. But that Scorpio Saturn, it gives you the fuel to research for hours and
It's funny
hours.
because sometimes I'm like, am I at the end of my research? And then I'm like, nope. And it's
Nope.
never ending.
The cup always fills up. So let's hit the screen share. So Micah, the floor is yours, my friend.
Okay. This is the Bible. And we're going to go beyond the Bible. But we're going to start with the Bible.
Okay.
The Holy Bible. The scriptures are metaphysical, astrological. That's what I'm going to go over with you. Anatomical, alchemical, spiritual, esoteric, and mythology. It's also gematria, etymology, numerology, symbology, and psychedelic. There's 12 holy sciences, 12 months of the year, like the 12 tribes of Israel, like the 12 disciples, like the 12. It's a same thing. So the Bible is not literal, reality, or original. Now, as I remember this slide right here, because I want you to remember as I give you this plethora of information that I'm only giving you one science, and it's basically like a slap of one science. It's not a thing. So I'm going to read this to you ahead of time because you're going to get it. A lot of people are going to get it, but I do this presentation for people who've never seen astrology before too. And they're going to be like, well, what's the point of all this? Because they start understanding it. So what is the point of this? We take for granted we have calendars, clocks, weather, men, watches. The ancients didn't have any of that. They had sundials. In the Bible, they worked on dream interpretations to harvest. They had to know things. They needed to know Taurus was when you put the plow on the bull and plant as above, so below. The Bible is an encoded farmer's almanac, and was the knowledge of staying alive the most important thing. They would look at the stars and see all this movement and make up stories about them and pass them down to their children, then them to their children. Eventually, they learned how to write, and they wrote them down, and they evolved from Sumerian to Babylonian to Egyptian to Judaism in the Old Testament, then to the Christians in the New Testament, and then it goes into the Quran, then it goes into the Apocrypha, the Gnostic texts, the Colburn Bible. It's in everything, the Book of Mormon, and I'm going to show you all that. Okay. So I'm going to read you this quote a couple times today. My point, once again, is not that those ancient people told literal stories, and we are now smart enough to take them symbolically, but that they told them symbolically, and we are now dumb enough to take them literally.
Okay.
So
I just lost you a little bit there, just so you know, with the Wi-Fi. I think we just lost you when you were saying literally.
Cancer's at the top. The sun's at its height. What's up?
No, I was saying that your internet, you just kind of faded a little bit when you were saying literally. It just kind of dragged a little bit. So I just want to make sure your Wi-Fi and internet is all good.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're great now.
Okay, so Cancer's at the top, Capricorn's at the bottom. So what I want to show you is stuff that you guys already know. Now, if I'm talking about Aries, the ram, I could talk about the ram. But there's also two types of connections that you can make. You have Pisces and Taurus. These are known as the connecting or neighboring signs. Aries opposing Libra. Now, as I go through these patterns, you're going to see that not only do they talk about the zodiac a lot, but that they only make these kind of patterns so that you know that they were real. Is that, for example, right here, what I'm highlighting right here, guys, this is not a real thing in the zodiac. This does not occur. You don't dividing line. What this is, for those of you who don't know, this is what's known as a cusp or the handover dates. This is a 3-day time period at the end of a sign and a 3-day time period at the beginning of the 9 where the energies to each other. Like I said, a cusp or handover date. Right. So due to the fact that this is blending into each other, you can use it to talk about either or. For example, right, Aries. Taurus, bull. So you see the line that I just made? I extended it out a little bit. If you're at the cusp in the story,
right,
between Taurus and Aries, you could talk about the ram, or you could talk about in a sign, which you'll see, you can only talk about that one sign. So when you are at the cusp of this part of the story, you can bend the zodiac in order to make these patterns and connections. So there's keywords.
And they call that the cusp of power, the
that you
Aries
can-
Taurus cusp.
Right. So there's questions you can ask. How Jesus was able to heal the blind, how he turned water into wine, why he had 12 disciples, why he was betrayed with a kiss by Judas, why was he dead for 3 days, why is his birthday on December 25th, and all of that is astrology, and I'm going to show you that. Now, Genesis 1:14 lets the cat out of the bag. It says, let lights appear in the sky to separate the day, that's the sun, from the night, that's the moon. Let them be signs, that's the zodiac, to mark the seasons, days, and years. That's the Farmer's Almanac I'm talking to you about. And this is exactly what this is talking about right here. This is the passage right here. So, a house, or an arrow, or an eon, or a sign, or a mansion. There are many different words for it, but they're referring to the same thing. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to explain to you guys the 12 signs of the zodiac and the stories behind it. Probably in a way that you haven't heard before. And then what we're going to do is we're going to find patterns. And I'm going to explain that as we go. So I start with Aquarius, even though Aries begins the year, and even further back it was Virgo in Egyptian times. I start with Aquarius, and I'll explain why. This is represented by the man with the water pitcher. Yeah. The story of Aquarius goes back to the story of Zeus and the young boy. One of the iterations, actually, goes back to Zeus and the young boy. So the story basically goes like this. Zeus saw a 14-year-old blonde boy on Earth that he wanted up on Mount Olympus with him. Incidentally, for those of you who don't know, Mount Olympus is actually a real place on Earth. And none of the Greeks, with all these stories that they had about things going on Mount Olympus, climbed it to check to see if anything was going on there, ever. So it's pretty interesting. But basically, he wants to bring the boy to Mount Olympus, and the boy's father won't let him go. So long story short, it's like the reverse book of Job. He basically gives the father all this stuff, and the boy's allowed to go up. While the boy's up there, he's feeding the gods out of this water pitcher something called ambrosia, which is the nectar. Now, he's doing this day in and day out, day in and day out. And one day he just gets so fed up with the monotony of his life, maybe even the lack of purpose, that he goes to the edge and he pours it out, just like it's represented in this picture. Now, by pouring this out, it caused the flood on Earth. That's where the Greeks get their flood story from. Now, Zeus, who's usually a malevolent, sexually deviant, just unpredictable, just an asshole in general, was going to punish the boy. But instead of punishing him, he was like, he thought to himself, in a rare moment of self-reflection, he was like, I shouldn't have brought the boy up. He had friends and family and all this kind of stuff, and I probably shouldn't have done this. So instead of punishing him, what he does is he immortalizes him as the constellation Aquarius. So the key words for Aquarius are man, because Aquarius is the sign of the man, whereas Virgo is the sign of the woman. Baptism, because this is how you baptize someone. Water pitcher, because this is a water pitcher. Then all the bodies of water, stream, river, pond, lake, ocean, and sea. And Eric, you know that Aquarius is an air sign. But because there's liquid right here in the picture of Aquarius, in the sign of Aquarius, there's liquid. They use it to encode liquid. Whereas Pisces is the sign of the two fish in the water. Pisces is the mutable sign. And Pisces is the same. Stream, river, pond, lake, sea, ocean. So the reason I start with Aquarius, now you'll see, is because Aquarius, the first two that I talk about are water. Now, how do you know they phrase things? Which I'll get to. Now, Aries is the ram. And in Aries, you have March 21st, which is the spring equinox. It's a 12-hour day and a 12-hour night. There's 3 different types of Passovers that occur during Aries. The first and the oldest is the astrological Passover, which is when the sun passes over on March 21st, the equator, and starts to make its way back to its height in the summer solstice. In Christianity, the passing over is changed and it becomes the resurrection of God's son. And that's Easter, and Easter's in Aries. And how do you know what day Easter is? Because they keep changing it every year. Well, you have to have March 21st. You have to have the spring equinox. And then eventually after the spring equinox, you'll have your first full moon. And then after your first full moon, after the spring equinox, you'll have the first Sunday. And that is Easter every single year. That's how you calculate it. The Jewish Passover, which is the third Passover, is when the angel of death passes over all the houses. And anyone that doesn't have the lamb, which is a baby ram's blood smeared on their doorpost, why? Because they're the Jews and they're the people of Aries, the ram. That's why they blow the ram's horn during the high holidays. Whereas the Egyptians are the people of Taurus, the bull. Their firstborn sons get killed. So whenever you're talking about ram, lamb, shepherd, or ram's horn, that's Aries. Then Taurus is the bull. And when the season, it's as above, so below. You look up at the sky, you see the bull. You need to put the plow on the bull so that you can plant the seed so you can harvest in Virgo and Libra. So whenever you hear bull, ox, calf, or cow being the female bull, you're talking about Taurus. Now, Gemini is the twins. It's the story of Castor and Pollux Troy. Remember those names. We're going to come back to them.
Right.
His sister was Helen of Troy. It's the story of Achilles. It's another Greek story. So whenever you hear twins or brothers, you're talking about Gemini. Then Cancer is the crab. The crab in the ancient Egyptian time was known as the scarab, the beetle. So why is Cancer the crab? Well, the sun on December 25th rises a degree on its axis. On the 26th, an additional 27th, an additional. This is not, however, I'm just showing you what it does. Every day the sun's going to rise an additional degree and start to make its way back up height to the summer solstice, the height. Then what it does is on June 21st, the longest day of the year, the shortest night of the year, on June 2nd, 23rd, and 24th, the sun does not rise an additional degree or drop a degree. What it does is it walks sideways like the crab and walks to the exact same alignment. So it just walks sideways for 3 days. Then on June 25th, it drops a degree. The 26th, it drops a degree. And it does this every single day until it hits the winter solstice, the winter solstice day of the year. It's December 21st. That's the day of death. And the day of death is right here. It's the cusp of Sagittarius and Capricorn.
So, Micah, can I ask you a question about that? Because people think of, I want to ask you this, Micah, real quick, because people think of winter with Capricorn and summer with Cancer. So you have it kind of reversed. Is there a reason for that?
Well, no. So it's like this. These are the. So this should actually I couldn't do it with my computer program.
Okay.
But this should actually be rotated 15 degrees to the right. So this line right here, the Gemini Cancer should be right here at the top.
Okay, no, I always think of that like the Cancer more with the 4th house and a Capricorn more with the 10th house. You know what I mean?
Right. But hold on a second. Cancer, the first day of Cancer is the first day of summer.
Right.
The last day of Sagittarius is the first day of winter. So what happens is December 21st, the ancients would look out into the sky. And if you've ever seen a picture of a time lapse of the sun, picture of the time lapse of the sun over a year's time period, you'll see the figure 8 that it makes. And the figure 8 on the edges, on the nodules of the 8 is the solstices, and then the equinox is right in the middle where it touches. And the ancients would look out at the sky at the sun being at the bottom, and it wouldn't even crack the horizon. So they would say that God's sun was dead. Whereas it walks sideways like the crab for 3 days. So suddenly God's sun was dead for 3 days. Where on December 25th, the sun rises a degree on its axis. It's born again. The light of the world, the only begotten sun, comes back to life and starts to make its way up the climb, up the great mountain. I'll get to that. You're right. It was just, I can't rotate this 15 degrees. So I will explain it as best as that. You're the only one that's ever caught that. But basically, I will explain that as such. But yeah, the Gemini Cancer, it should be rotated about 15 degrees. So Leo is the king. He's the lion. He's the king of the jungle or the king of the savannah. Whenever you're talking about the king, you're talking about Leo, because the ruling planet of Leo is actually the sun or the Christ. Whenever you're talking about lion, lioness, or cub, that's Leo. Virgo is the woman holding the wheat stalk. Remember before when we said that you plant in Taurus? Well, the virgins would cultivate the wheat in Virgo in order to make bread for the year. So whenever you hear virgin or woman, because Virgo is the sign of the woman, whereas Aquarius is the sign of the man. Wheat, because look at this, she's holding a stalk of wheat right here to make the bread.
Yeah.
Grain, seed, barley, corn. These are all grainy things in the northern hemisphere thousands of years ago. They would harvest during Virgo, during the harvest season. Now, Libra is the justice. It's the scales, it's the balance, it's the just one. The reason it's the justice is because it judges God's sun as it passes under the fall equinox and begins its descent into winter, into cold, into death. Libra is also wine season, which is when you plant for the grapes in Taurus. You can press the wine here. It's also olive season. You press the olives. So all law-related things, law, judge, justice, the just one, divorce, marriage, court. These are all law-related things. That's Libra. Wine, vineyard, wine press, grapes, that's Libra. Olive oil or olive oil, that's Libra. Incidentally, frankincense and myrrh that the wise men bring to the manger, frankincense and myrrh are olive plants. I don't know if you know that, but that ties into Libra too. Now, Scorpio is the scorpion, and he is the betrayer. When a scorpion bites you or attacks you, it leaves an imprint in your skin that looks like a pair of lips. It's why the mafia has the kiss of death. That's where they get it from. And it's why Jesus was betrayed by Judas with the kiss. So the sun is judged in Libra. Then it's betrayed in Scorpio. Here in Sagittarius, where the bow and the arrow shoot the sun, and fixed for the arrow killed the sun. Why? Because I told you, the last day of Sagittarius is the winter solstice. So whenever you hear horse, bow, and arrow, or horseman, that's Sagittarius. And then finally you have the goat, which is Capricorn, which is at the bottom of the wheel. Now, why is it at the bottom of the wheel? Well, because every single day starting December 25th, which is Capricorn, the sun is going to climb a degree on its axis. And what it is it's climbing up what the zodiac is known as the Great Mountain, which is the zodiac. And there's its height, and then it goes sideways, and then it comes back down again. And the reason it starts in Capricorn is because the goat climbs the mountain better than any animal out there.
Yeah.
So that's why it's the. So now there's keywords that they give you in church for names for Jesus, which are all astrology, and nobody knows any different. Let's go through them. When the sun, or Jesus, which Jesus, by the way, here's the sun. It's not a halo. You can see it's clearly the sun. You can look up any picture of Jesus you want on the internet. The sun will always be behind his head, no matter what he's doing, whether he's flipping over a table, or he's on the cross, or he's a baby in a manger. The sun is always behind his head. They're telling you. He's a solar deity of the Piscean age. When the sun is in Capricorn, the goat, he is the scapegoat of Israel. When the sun is in the man sign Aquarius, he is the son of man. When the sun is in Pisces, the two fish, he is the fisher of men, and it's also why he feeds the masses with two fish. When the sun, or Jesus, the Christ, is in Aries, he's the Lamb of God, or the Good Shepherd. Cancer, the scarab, the crab, the scarab, St. Augustine famously called Jesus the good beetle. When the sun is in Leo, he is the Lion of Judah. The lady holding the stalk of wheat, Virgo, he is born of a virgin, and he's called the bread of life. Libra is the scale of justice. He is known as the just one. I mean, you see all these names that are connected to this, that they open him, and they have no idea any better. He's betrayed.
So, I want to ask you a quick question about that in terms of, the real name Yeshua, but also Jesus and Mary, I think, are both Virgos, and a lot of astrologers and researchers have said that Yeshua was actually born on 9/11.
Yeah, they say that. They say the Feast of the Tabernacles. They say 9/11. They say after Passover. What I'm telling you is the science behind the story.
Yes, no, I get it. It's amazing.
Right. Yeshua, by the way, in Hebrew, whenever you say Y-E, it means J, because there was no letter J until 1534 or 1524 AD. J was the last letter of the alphabet. So Jesus wasn't called Jesus. You want to call him Yeshua? That's fine. But understand that when you say Jonathan in Hebrew, it's Yonatan. When you say Jacob, it's Yaakov. When you say, I can go on and on and on.
Yeah. No.
So when you're calling him Yeshua, you're actually calling him Joshua. So there is that. But, okay. So let's go into scripture. Deuteronomy 32. I'm going to highlight these words. He gave them honey from the cliffs and olive oil from the rocky ground. He gave his people butter from the herd and milk from the flock. He gave them lambs and goats. They had the best rams from Bashan and the finest wheat. They drank the best made from the juice of red grapes. But Jeshurun became fat and kicked like a bull. So let's go over this. He gave them honey. In the sign Cancer, there's a group of stars called the Beehive Cluster. So that's where the honey comes from. The Beehive Cluster, back in the day then, used to be called the Manger. That was its original name. Now this right here is the beginning of summer. Then we go here, and it says olive oil. Well, that's Libra. So let's mark that off here. The milk, the center of the Milky Way galaxy is here in Sagittarius. That's where the Milky Way galaxy is. So what you're looking at right here is the first day of summer to the first day of winter is your land of milk and honey. It's not a place on earth. Then he gave them lambs and goats. Lambs is Aries, and goat is Capricorn.
So the 4 cardinal
And the best rams, that's Aries from Bashan, and the wine and the red grapes.
Yeah.
There's Virgo, and there's Libra. But Jeshurun became fat and kicked like a bull. So these two connecting signs, these two connecting signs, these two connecting signs, and we have this pattern right here. So that's Deuteronomy 32. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 zodiac signs in Deuteronomy 32. Wow. Now, Mount of Olives. Jesus led his disciple to the Mount of Olives after his last Passover. Let me highlight some stuff. So after his last Passover, the Mount of Olives. So he could teach them a few more things, pray, then wait for Judas to betray him. While walking to the Mount of Olive, he gave the parable of the true vine. So check this out. Passover in Aries, which is right here. Well, what does he do right after that? The Mount of Olives. Well, Olive Libra, that's its opposing sign. So there's one pattern right there. Then what's next? Well, they're waiting for the betrayal. Well, duh, the betrayer is Scorpio, the connecting sign of Libra. So there's another pattern. But remember what they say. I told you to look out for the words. They're waiting for the betrayal. So get rid of that. They're waiting for the betrayal. So you're still in Libra. While you're in Libra, which is law, wine, and olives, remember, he gives the parable of the true vine. So these stories have a flow to it. There's a reason that they use these words. Revelation 4:7. The first living creature was like a lion. The second was like an ox. The third had a face like a man. The fourth was like a flying eagle. The first living creature was like a lion. That's Leo. The second was like an ox. That's Taurus. The third had a face like a man. That's Aquarius. The fourth was like a flying eagle. I'm sure you know about the eagle's evolution.
Yeah, the scorpion to the phoenix rising to the eagle soaring, and that's the constellation Anguilla.
Exactly. In astrology, the scorpion is the belly-crawling creature. It's the lowest form of life on Earth. Scorpions crawl on their belly. The first thing that they do... Hold on. Okay. The first thing that they do, or God does, in the Garden of Eden after the deception, he's not kick Adam and Eve out. That's not the first thing he does. If you read, the very first thing he does is he takes the legs away from the snake, so it has to slither on its belly. It's a punishment. In Santo de la Muerte in Mexico, men dress up in suits, like real nice suits, get on their hands and knees and crawl to church. So they get dirty. It's a punishment. But the evolved form, also known as the ascendant of Scorpio is the eagle, which is the highest flying form of life on Earth. And as you just mentioned, the eagle evolves into the phoenix. I mean, it evolves into the dove. There's 8 evolutions of Scorpio, which I'm not going to go into right now because they're not relevant. But just so that you know, the scorpion, the eagle, the dove, the phoenix, it's all Scorpio. So Leo, Taurus, Aquarius, and Scorpio are the 4 fixed signs of the zodiac. So what does the fixed sign mean, guys? Well, you have 12 zodiac signs, and you have 4 seasons. So you have 3 signs in each season. So just to show you, Cancer, Leo, Virgo is summer. Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius is fall. Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces is winter. Aries, Taurus, and Gemini is spring. Now, each season has 3 signs. These 4 are known as the cardinal signs, which is why you have cardinals in church. If I were to take one of these whole signs, you can break them down into 3 10-day segments called deacons. Can you not? That's why that's why there's deacons and cardinals. That's why there's deacons and cardinals in church.
In the churches, yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah.
Okay, so that's So these are the cardinal signs. That's the first sign in the season. The fixed sign is Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius, and Taurus, as explained. And look at this pattern that it makes, this lovely little cross that it makes through the wheel. It's called the fixed sign because if you have 1, 2, 3 signs, this is fixed in the season. This is the middle of fall. This is in the middle of winter. This is in the middle of spring. And this is in the middle of summer.
Yeah. They sustain the season.
Third sign right here, it's the mutable sign. Exactly. So is there really going in the sky, or is it just making this pattern on the zodiac? I mean, it's pretty obvious. Ezekiel 10:14. Each of the cherubim had 4 faces. And I'm going to show you Ezekiel's vision maybe next time I come on. Each of the cherubim had 4 faces. One face was that of a cherub, the second the face of a human being, the third the face of a lion, the fourth the face of an eagle. Revelation 12. A great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and a crown of 12 stars on her head. She was pregnant and cried out in pain as she was about to give birth. Then another sign appeared in heaven, an enormous red dragon with 7 heads, 10 horns, and 7 crowns on its head. Now, the 7 crowns, the 7 heads, and the 10 horns, I'm not going to explain, because that's the numerology breakdown of the Bible, and I'm doing the astrology. Yep. So I recognize them, I see that they're there, and I'm purposefully avoiding them, with your permission. So its tail swept a third of the stars out of the sky and flung them to earth. A woman clothed with the sun is the sun clothed in Virgo. It's a metaphor for the sun being in Virgo. Yeah. If the sun is in Virgo, the moon will be at her feet. So not only is this zodiac right here, I need the black. Here we go. Not only is this zodiac right here a calendar, it's also a clock. So there's 12 zodiac signs, and there's 24 hours a day in a clock. So the sun spends 2 hours a day in each sign. So this is midnight to 2. This is 2 to 4. This is 4 to 6, 6 to 8, 8 to 10, 10 to 12, 12 to 2 when it's the hottest, 2 to 4, 4 to 6. We were looking for Virgo before. This is 4 to 6. Well, between 4 to 6, it's 5:47 right now. I'm looking outside as the sun is up. So if the sun is up, is the moon not at her feet? If the moon is up, the sun is at her feet. I mean, not literally, but that's basically the metaphor that they're going for.
Right.
Then another sign appeared in heaven, an enormous dragon. Its tail swept a third of the stars and flung them to earth. This that I'm highlighting right here is the Draco's tail. The constellation of Draco goes from Aries to Sagittarius, which is 4/12 of the signs, or 1/3 of the stars out of the sky. This is star poetry, people. Behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. So be as wise as serpents and harmless as doves. So the sheep is Aries. Well, the wolf is the constellation Lupus, which is in Libra. So that's an opposing sign. So be as wise as serpents. Well, the serpent is the constellation Ophiuchus, which sits right here between Scorpio and Sagittarius.
Yeah.
And harmless as dove, the dove is Scorpio. So look at this. You have Aries to Libra, opposing signs, and then 1, 2, 3 signs in a row.
Wow. So it's like, what is
So
it saying in these scriptures, though, Micah? Like, how do you, as you identify it, how do you decode it? Is it really just telling time, or like you said, the Farmer's Almanac? Like, what's the allegory of the story? Is really?
I'm going to reread that to you when we get through a little bit more. It's going to make more sense, I promise. So I've given examples of astrotheology in the Old Testament as well as the New Testament. I've been accused of cherry-picking verses from the Bible to prove a point. Let's take a much longer passage and see if we can decode it as well. This is the story of Job. You familiar with the story of Job?
Yeah, man, that's one of the best books. I like Job.
Good. Tell everybody about it.
Oh, God, you got me on the spot. I mean, the thing about Job is he was kind of like tested, and he just had to do what he had to do, right? I mean, that's from what I remember.
Right. That's what basically happened. So basically what happens is Satan and God make a bet. Because Job is the most faithful servant, but he has food, land, money, family, wife, animals. Satan's like, if I take that away, he'll curse you. And God takes the bet, but he says you can't take his life. So little by little, Satan starts taking away everything. At one point, Job is crying out to God for like 20 pages in the Bible. It's just like endless. He's just crying out.
That's the patience of Job,
And then God replies to Job. What I'm going to read you is God's reply. Job 38:32. He says, "Can you lead forth the Mazzaroth? The Mazzaroth is the zodiac. It was left untranslated intentionally because they don't want you to know that the Mazzaroth means the zodiac. The Mazzaroth over time becomes the Mazzalot, which survives in Judaism today as Mazel Tov, which is good fortune from the stars. So what is the Lord's challenge to Job? He says, can you bind the chains of the Pleiades? Can you loosen Orion's belt? Finally, some out in the open celestial metaphors. Now, the Pleiades are in Taurus, and Orion's belt is between Taurus and Gemini. Can you bring forth the constellation in their season or lead out the bear with its cubs? The constellation of the zodiac above, the bear and its cubs are Ursa Major, the Great Bear, and Ursa Minor, part of the Big Dipper. That's Gemini and Cancer. Well, look at this. Taurus, Gemini, and Cancer are 3 signs in a row. That's how it opens up. Then he says, who could tip over the water jars of heaven? I mean, that's obviously Aquarius, right?
Yeah.
Do you hunt the prey for the lioness and satisfy the hunger for the lions? That's Leo. So now look at this real quick. We have Aquarius down here. Then we have Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, and Leo. 4 signs in a row. So we have 5 signs so far, but it continues. Who provides food for the raven? That's the constellation Corvus, which means raven and borders on Virgo. Do you watch when the doe bears her fawn? Mariga, meaning deer, is located in Orion. Who let the wild donkey go free? That's a Salus Borealis, meaning donkey, and is located in Cancer. Will the wild ox consent to serve you? That's Taurus. Do you give the horse? So they mentioned the horse, so we know it's Sagittarius. But if you keep reading, it laughs at fear, afraid of nothing. It does not shy away from the sword. The quiver, when they mention the quiver, you know that the quiver sits on the side of the horse that holds the arrows. That's how you know it's a dude with the bow and the arrow on the horse. That's how you know it's Sagittarius. Does the eagle soar at your command and build its nest on high? The eagle is Scorpio. Can you pull in Leviathan with a fish hook? We know Leviathan was an ancient Piscean fish deity, like Dagon, like Mithra, like Leviathan, right? So what do we have now? That's his challenge to Job. You have these 2 connecting signs. You have these 2 connecting signs. And you have a pattern of 5 signs up here. So the only ones that they didn't mention were Aries, so the ram, the lamb, the shepherd, Libra, the wine, the laws, and then Capricorn here, the goat. They didn't mention it. And look at this. forms upside down triangle for the patterns that are missing. These are also 3 of the 4 cardinal signs, are they not?
Yeah. Aries, Libra,
So
and that would be a cardinal T-cross.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. So there's patterns in the missing signs too, you see?
Yeah.
Okay, so check this out. How Jesus was able to heal the blind. Well, the story goes, in the Bible, that the blind man comes up to Jesus and he's like, heal me. And Jesus is like, yeah, with your faith. Yeah, you have good faith. I'll heal you. So he basically touches the dirt, spits on his hand, puts it on the guy's eyes, or something to that effect.
Yeah.
He spits on his fingers and touches the dirt. I don't remember the order. But basically, he puts the dirt on the guy's eyes, and when it falls off, he's able to see. Well, the sun does the same thing, too, because it's 6 o'clock right now, p.m., and in about an hour and a half to 2 hours in Florida, when the sun goes down, I'm going to be blind. Without external light, without street lamps or anything, the whole thing is going to be pitch black. We're not going to be able to see.
Right.
So the sun is going to have to come up in the morning and touch your eyes in order for you to see. Now, how he walked on water, we know the story about Jesus walking on water. We know that the sun also walks on water because you've gone fishing before in your life, and you've seen the sun dancing on the water during the dawn and dusk.
Yeah, sunrise, sunset, yeah.
Exactly. And Christos, remember, the Jews wrote the New Testament in Greek. Christos is a title. It means oil or anointed one. Does oil also walk on water?
Oh, yeah.
See, this is a triple entendre right here. How Jesus walked on water. How he turned water into wine. This is not a parlor trick. This is a process. So the reason God's considered a man and Mother Earth is considered a woman has to do with one thing only. One single thing. The rain, the sacred fluid. In Hebrew, the word is shemen. We get the word semen from it. It's a sacred fluid. So you have to think about it poetically and metaphorically. Basically what happens is when it rains, God's fluid ejaculates onto earth, and then from her belly, food, trees, creeks fill up.
It provides us life and sustenance. Yeah,
exactly.
Oh
exactly.
my God,
So what happens is in Taurus, remember, as above, so below. You see the bull, you put the plow on the bull. And for those of you out there who don't know if you're going to go out and look for Taurus, most people don't know what to look for. But if you look for Orion's belt that most people can pick out, that's Taurus. So that has to be like straight above. So when you see that, anyway, so Taurus is you plant, right? So you plant the grape seeds. Then April showers bring May flowers. That's Taurus. And then it rains throughout the year. And then you pick the grapes in Libra, and then you crush it into wine. That's how you turn God's water into wine. Why he had 12 disciples. We're going to go over this right now. Gemini is Thomas Didymus, because in Hebrew, Ta'om, or Ta'om, very similar, means twin. In Greek, Didymus means twin. So twin. So that's Thomas right there. Libra is James. He is known as the just one. You have Scorpio, that's Judas the betrayer with the kiss, just like the scorpion does. Aquarius, you have John the Baptist. You have Pisces right here. So Pisces is Simon Peter. That needs a little explanation. Thomas goes to Tom. Samuel goes to Sam. Michael goes to Mike. All these nicknames and short and truncated names make sense. Unless Simon Peter. So when it comes to Simon Peter, Simon Peter.
Is it the two names, or is it?
No, because Peter's job was a fisherman. He was a fisherman.
Oh, yeah.
So that's the two fish. And the ruling planet of Pisces?
Jupiter.
Jupiter.
Oh, wow.
So I just gave you 5 examples right now.
I didn't know the Gemini Thomas, because I was always thinking, where are the twins in the Bible? And I was thinking Boaz and something, but Thomas, so it's more Hebrew, right? I didn't really.
It's Hebrew and Greek, which is what the New Testament was written in.
Wow.
So why was he betrayed with a kiss by Judas? We went over that. Why was he dead for 3 days? We went over that. Why is his birthday on December 25th? We went over all this. Now, the science only works for people in the northern hemisphere, and there's a reason for that. The Egyptians, Jews, Christians, and Muslims are all based out of the northern hemisphere. For example, June 21st, the summer solstice, is actually the winter solstice in Australia and New Zealand, much of South Africa and South America. So, when I explain this to people right here, give me a sec, because I'm editing this thing.
Yeah, I
So
feel
Taurus,
bad for our Australian people. I hate to leave them out.
exactly. So this is Taurus, right? This is as above, so below. You see the bull, you plant, right?
Yeah.
Well, because everything is reversed in the southern hemisphere, in order to find out when you plant, just go across the zodiac wheel to the season. That would be Scorpio. That's when you plant.
Yeah.
For example, Virgo is the harvest. It's the wheat harvest. But in order to find out when to plant, you just go across the wheel and realize that in the south, you harvest in Pisces. It's just reversed. That's all it is. So, but it doesn't stop there. It's not just random passages in the Bible that can be decoded this way. We're going to go through the entire book of Revelation to show how deep this runs. So this is Revelation 4:7. This is the four-headed creature, the fixed signs, also known as the tetramorph. We already went over this.
Yeah.
Revelation 5:5. Then one of the elders said to me, "Do not weep. See, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, has triumphed. He is able to open the scroll and its 7 seals." But the Lion of Judah is Leo, and the ruling planet of Leo is the Sun, or the Christ. So therefore, he is able to open the seals. I watched as the Lamb opened the first of the 7 seals. Then I heard one of the 4 living creatures, that's the 4 fixed signs, by the way, say in a voice like thunder, "Come." Well, the Lamb opens the first seal because Aries begins the year.
Yeah.
So the Lamb has to open the first seal. Then you have the 4 living creatures, and then in Hebrew, the word thunder actually translates to voices. So when they used to hear thunder, they used to say God was talking.
Talking, yeah.
You know, Revelation 6:2, I looked, and there before me was a white horse. Its rider held a bow. I mean, the rider holding the bow, it's right there. It's right there in the open. Sagittarius.
Yeah.
Then I heard what sounded like a voice of the 4 living creatures, again, the 4 fixed signs, saying 2 pounds of wheat, that's Virgo, for a day's wages, 6 pounds of barley, Virgo, for a day's wages, and do not damage the oil, Libra, and the wine, Libra. Virgo and Libra are connecting signs, so this is just 2 examples of each. I watched as he opened the 6th seal. There was a great earthquake. The sun turned black like sackcloth made of goat hair. The whole moon turned blood red. Well, who's the goat in the zodiac?
Capricorn.
Capricorn, okay. And if its opposing sign is Cancer, who's the ruling planet of Cancer?
Moon. Blood red.
That's why they put them right there together.
Wow.
Then I heard the number of those who were sealed, 144,000 from all the tribes of Israel. There are 7 chakras. The root has 4 petals, the sacral has 6, the solar plexus has 10. The heart has 12, and the throat has 16, which equals 48. The third eye chakra is represented by 96. Hold on. Third eye chakra, where am I? The third eye chakra is represented by 96 and only has 2 petals because it's 2 times as powerful as the lower chakras. So 48 times 2 is 96. The crown chakra is 1,000 times more powerful than the lower 6 chakras. You add the lower 6, you get 96 plus 48 equals 140, and you times that by 1,000, and you get your 144,000. When you've activated all your chakras, that is when you get to go see God. It's that simple.
So that's the 144,000. It's not 144,000 people. It's the illuminating and aligning the chakras within you in one
Exactly.
way.
It's a gift for everyone.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Revelation 9:3. And out of the smoke, locusts came down on the earth and were given power like that of scorpions on earth. So, the locusts that I'm going to show you in about 7-8 minutes are a food source, as according to Leviticus 11. But the powers of scorpion, what did I tell you the scorpion does? It betrays, right?
Yeah.
The scorpion betrays. So how does the locust betray? Well, in small quantities, it's a food source. But in a large quantity, it's a plague. That's how it betrays. So Revelation 9:7, the locusts look like horses prepared for battle. On their heads they wore something like crowns of gold, and their faces resembled human faces. Their hair was like women's hair, and their teeth were like lions' teeth. They had tails with stingers like scorpions. So the locusts looked like horses. That's Sagittarius.
Yeah.
On their heads they wore something like crowns of gold. The gold is the sun, so that's the sun in Sagittarius. The hair was like women's hair. That's Virgo. Their teeth were like lions' teeth. That's Leo. The tails were stingers like scorpion. But look at this. Virgo and Leo here are connecting signs.
Yeah.
Scorpio and Sagittarius here are connecting signs too.
Yeah.
So Revelation 12, this is the dragon. We did this already. The beast I saw resembled a leopard, but had feet like those of a bear and a mouth like that of a lion. There's a constellation in Gemini called Camelopardalis, which is a combination of camelos, camel, and pardalis, which is leopard. The camel leopard. In fact, the giraffe's original name was the camel leopard. Camelopardalis is in Gemini. Ursa Major is in Cancer. Lion is Leo. So the beast I saw resembled a leopard, Gemini, but had feet like those of a bear, Cancer, and a mouth like that of a lion, Leo. That's 3 signs in a row just in this little passage. Then I saw a second beast coming out of the earth. It had 2 horns like a lamb, but it spoke like a dragon. The lamb is Aries, and the dragon begins in Aries. Cargoes of cinnamon spice, of incense, myrrh and frankincense, I already explained, were olive plants. The wine is also Libra. Olive oil is also Libra. This entire line is Libra. Fine flour and wheat, that's Virgo. Virgo and Libra are connecting signs. The cattle is Taurus. The sheep is Aries. Aries and Taurus are connecting signs. The horse is Sagittarius. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Right, it's all astrology, but is it just coding seasons, or like that's what I'm trying to get? Like, what? It's
my
crazy.
point once again is not that those ancient people told literal stories and we are now smart enough to take them symbolically, but that they told them symbolically and we are now dumb enough to take them literally. What it is it's a keyword cipher based on the zodiac that teaches you where everything is located in the heavens. It was encoded for people to figure it out, for ears to hear and eyes to see.
Yes.
It's in order for, it teaches you the heavens. It gives you examples so that you can plot everything out, so that you can memorize everything.
So that you could survive and grow your food and sustain and live.
You had to, because you didn't, I mean, like, look, we have apps on our phone that we can go to Google and it tells us exactly what minute the sun will set.
They had to look up.
They had to look up. They didn't have a choice. They had to look up. They encoded all this information. Now, I just got a message that something urgent came up, so I want to do this book of Matthew with real quick, but I want to split this episode into 2, if that's okay with you.
Okay.
Okay. So a deep dive into the book of Matthew. Matthew 3:2. Repent of your sins and turn to God, for the kingdom of heaven is near. Each gospel begins at one of the 4 major points of the zodiac and ends at one of them as well, too. That's the cardinal signs. The 2 solstices and the 2 equinoxes, when connected, form a cross. This is the cross that God's Son carries to his death. Astrologically, the death is right here. The kingdom of heaven is Leo, whose ruling planet is the sun. So the closest of the 4 points is here. That is June 21st in Cancer, or technically right here. So this is where the gospel starts. This is the cusp handover date between Cancer and Leo. It is the beginning of the kingdom. Matthew 3:4. John's clothes were woven from coarse camel hair, and he wore a leather belt around his waist. For food he ate locusts and wild honey. If we take the most famous drawing of a man, Leonardo da Vinci's Vitruvian Man, and superimpose it onto the zodiac, we can make sense of this. When you're on the cusp handover date, we went over this too. So check this out. The head is in Cancer. The beehive cluster is right here. The mouth is right here. So the head is in Cancer. That's why he eats the honey. Leviticus 11 that I told you we'd get to. What's clean and unclean to eat? All flying insects that walk on all 4s are to be regarded as unclean by you. There are, however, some flying insects that walk on all 4s that you may eat. Those that have any jointed legs for hopping on the ground, of these you may eat any kind of locust, katydid, cricket, or grasshopper. So when they're trying to tell you, in the news, a pound of grasshoppers is 3 times as nutritious as a pound of beef, well, they're literally just getting it from the Bible, Leviticus 11. Okay, so we started in Leo. Then we were in Cancer for the honey. Now we're in Gemini. This is a little lower on the zodiac. So this is something like right around here, a little lower on the body. There's a clothes made out of camel hair, or the constellation Camelopardalis, which is located in Gemini. Then you had Leo, then Cancer for the honey, then Gemini, Camelopardalis. And then you had Taurus right here, which is where you'd wear the belt, right there. The midsection is where you wear the belt. Taurus represents the bull, and the female is the cow, which represents the leather. Regarding the belt, Orion's belt sits right here between Taurus and Gemini. Next would be the baptism. So we started the Cancer-Leo cusp. How are we going to go to the water sign for the baptism? You go across the zodiac. Remember, you're touching Capricorn and Aquarius. Because you're at a cusp, you could talk about Aquarius, which is the baptism. So what's the next scene? How we see how it makes a leap from one cusp to the other. The man with the water pitcher in Aquarius is personified as John the Baptist with the water. It's important to note, too, that John the Baptist and Jesus are always exactly 6 months apart. When you think the fact that Jesus is born on December 25th and is going to rise a degree a day like this, like I've been showing you, then that must mean John the Baptist is June 24th and decrease a degree a day, like the sun does this. Which is why in John 3:30, John says he must increase, but I must decrease. It's also why St. John's Day is exactly 6 months to the day of the birthday of Jesus. Just open up any Catholic calendar. The next story is the temptation of Jesus. So we are going back to the Cancer-Leo cusp right here of July 24th. Well, what do? Well, he's tempted for 40 days by the devil, right? So just count 40 days. Just count 40 days. It takes you to September 2nd. Well, what's the very next passage? That's Virgo, by the way.
Yeah.
If you are the Son of God, tell these stones to become loaves of bread. Here we see mention of the bread, which tells you the sun is in Virgo. So we were in Leo, Cancer, Gemini, Taurus. That's 4 in a row. But now we have Virgo with the bread, and then Libra right here. I did not come to abolish the law, and if you are even angry with someone, you are subject to judgment. Matthew 5:17 and 22. Both law and judgment are Libra. So right now, just to start, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 signs in a row.
Wow.
Matthew 7:15, 16. Beware of false prophets who come disguised as harmless sheep. So the sheep is Aries. Can you pick grapes up from the thorn bushes? Well, that has to do with Libra. Thorn bushes. Those are opposing signs. Moving along, Matthew 13. Later that same day, Jesus left the house and sat beside the lake. Right here. He's beside the lake. He's at the cusp. Why? Because he's sitting beside the lake. He's not in the lake. You have the 2 water signs, right? I told you got to be careful with how they word things. He's beside the lake. If he was in the lake or he went for a swim, you can be in either of these. But because he's beside the lake, he sits between them. Now follow this to its opposing sign. Remember, always connecting and opposing signs. This is Virgo right here. That's touching right here. The next parables are the wheat and the weeds, the mustard and the yeast. The next parable, if I come back here to touch Pisces, is the fishing net parable. Explain it to you basically. This is a simple keyword cipher based off of Ptolemy's list of 48 constellations that he knew in 150 AD. This is all that it is. And then based on the different things within each sign, you can make endless stories about it and that form endless patterns. Gemini is the signs of 2 men, technically twins. However, there's just a short mention of brothers in the next passage. He's just the carpenter's son, and we know Mary, his mother, and his brothers, James, Joseph, Simon, and Judas. This ends at the cusp right here. How do we know? Because if you follow this across, this takes you to the day of death. December 21st. The cusp of Sagittarius and Capricorn. What's the very next story? It's the death of John the Baptist. So I'm going to show you how scripture is written now, because you had asked. Let's take the sentence, which sounds like it could be in the Bible, but isn't. If I say to you, the rulers were divided between war and love, it split the land in half. You could read that as a literal translation, or the ruling planet of Aries is Mars, who's the god of war. The ruling planet of Libra is Venus, who's the goddess of love. There's your war and love. If you connect it, it literally splits the land in half. And that's how scripture is written. Making patterns, showing you the heavens. Matthew 14, 17, and 32, but we only have 5 loaves of bread, that's Virgo with the wheat stalk, and 2 fish. Well, the 2 fish are literally Pisces, and these are literally opposing signs.
Yeah.
This is the cross of God's Son. We were just in Virgo, and now next is Libra, which is law, wine, and oil. Remember, what stories do we get now? The story of the temple tax, law, the unforgiving debtor, law, divorce and marriage, law, and the parable of the vineyard worker. Wine, Virgo, and Libra are 2 connecting signs. Next is Scorpio, the betrayer. This is where Judas betrays Jesus with the kiss. Now it's 3 signs in a row. And then you're Sagittarius, the day of death, 4 signs in a row. And that's how it ends. Astrology is a language. If you understand this language, the sky speaks to you. And that is the first half of my presentation, and I just wanted to see, I can't really stay long, but brother, what do you think?
Well, what's so powerful about it all is that it makes me think that the entire book is really more about their survival and the connecting to, like you said, almost like the development of the Farmer's Almanac, which we know is Benjamin Banneker, and he was the first one to predict one of the eclipses, right, and made the clock and designed Washington, D.C., which some people like to call it Banneker City, right? And so, but I just think of like everything is really speaking to, like you said, like allegory, metaphor, parables, but it's like connecting for survival, right? Like when to plant, when to do this, when to do that. And so then it makes me wonder, because I know in the Last Supper, it, even how Da Vinci showed it, it's really showing all 12 zodiac signs, and I've gone to the Louvre and I've seen it. So it's like, wow, so it's just kind of powerful. But I mean, I guess for me, right, the Christian would say to you, well, what does this mean? Like, how does this debunk, or how does this say that it's not a holy book and stuff like that, right? That's
for the second half of the presentation where I show it through 6,000 years, Governor.
Oh man, so everybody's got to stay tuned
if they like this enough.
Oh yeah, definitely. So